What is corporate governance? Corporate governance is a system of rules, practice, and process that governs and control a business. Corporate governance basically involves balancing the interests of a large number of stakeholders. For example, shareholder, consumer, vendor, the government, and the community. Since corporate governance also offers a mechanism for achieving the goals of organization, it covers almost every field of management, from action plans and internal control to performance assessment and corporate disclosure. The purpose of corporate governance is to facilitate effective, creative, and responsible management that will ensure the company's long-term success. Debate on essential of corporate governance. Some financial economists argue that when corporations maximize shareholder value, other stakeholders will be better off. However, the reality is that shareholders' gain may be at the expense of stakeholder welfare. Such inherent conflicts of interest imply that the overwhelming emphasis on shareholder value may pressurize the executive to engage in unethical activities, while the traditional school of corporate governance focuses on the maximization of shareholder wealth. Stakeholder theory emerged as an intellectual response to the shareholder theory. The basic argument of stakeholder theory is from the fact that the physical assets in which individuals invest are not the only assets that create value in the corporation. Next, international governance debate. Modern-day business is beset or face difficulty with changing operating paradigms. Economies with efficient economic policies and stable political systems are a big draw among the investors. Countries that open themselves to world market actually have a good legal system, thus it providing protection to investors that have attracted more capital in the process of globalization. As the demand for capital is growing in both developed and developing economies, they need to establish good governance practice to gain momentum. However, governance practices are not uniform across nations. This diversity may be particularly because of the different legal structures and cultural settings adopted by different nations. Given the cultural settings of different nations, it is argued that it would never be possible for corporate laws to converge universally. New models of corporate governance are likely to emerge, as given the large-scale experimentation done by transition economies. Next, the rise of plurilateralism has been real and important among the world's most powerful states on the core norms of international relations. Moreover, there is no guarantee that new powers will subscribe to Western ideas about how and what global governance should be organized. This debate will be resolved in time, and we'll learn eventually whether emerging powers accept or attempt to overthrow existing governance arrangements. However, in present, greater ideological pluralization and geopolitical competition raise questions about the future of global governance. For example, Robert Gilpin examined the dynamics of change and interconnection among material power, norms, and institutions. He conceived the international system as a set of social arrangements, which includes rights and rules that govern or influence the interaction among states. The core principle of corporate governance first is accountability. Corporate accountability refers to the obligation and responsibility to give an explanation or reason for the company action and conduct. The board should communicate with stakeholders at regular intervals, a fair, rational, and understandable evaluation of how the organization achieves its business objective. Second is responsibility. Accountability goes hand in hand with responsibility. The board of directors should be made accountable to the shareholders for the way in which the company has carried out its responsibility. The board of directors are responsible for overseeing the management of the business affairs of the company, appointing the chief executive, and monitoring the performance of the company. Next, transparency. Stakeholders should be informed about the company's activities, what it plans to do in the future, and any risks involved in its business strategies. Transparency ensures that stakeholders can have confidence in the decision-making and management process of a company. Last but not least is fairness. To shareholders should also be fairness in the treatment of all stakeholders, including employees, communities, and public officials. The fairer the entity appears to stakeholder, the more likely it is that it can survive the pressure of interested party.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Ashika. Now I will proceed with the next slide, which is type of corporate governance. Okay, for type of corporate governance, effective corporate governance is essential if a business wants to set and meet strategic goals. A corporate governance structure combines control, policy, and guidelines that drive the organization toward its objective while also satisfying stakeholders' needs. A corporate governance structure is often a combination of various mechanisms such as internal mechanism, external mechanism, independent audit, and lastly, small business relevant. First is internal mechanism. The formal set of control for a corporation comes from its internal mechanism. This control monitors the progress and activities of the organization and take corrective action when the business goes off track. Next is maintaining a broader internal control structure of the corporation support the internal objective of the corporation and its internal stakeholders, including employees, managers, and shareholders. And lastly, this objective includes smooth operation, clearly defined reporting line, and performance measurement system. Internal mechanisms include oversight of management, independent internal audit, structure of the board of directors into level of responsibility. Second is external mechanism. External control mechanisms are controlled by those outside an organization and serve the objective of entities such as regulators, governments, trade unions, and financial institutions. These objectives include adequate debt management and legal compliance. External mechanisms are often imposed on organizations by external stakeholders in the form of union contracts or regulatory guidelines. Next is external organizations such as industry association may suggest guidelines for the best practice, and businesses can choose to follow this guideline or ignore them. Lastly, typically, companies report the status and compliance of external corporate governance mechanism to external stakeholders. Third is independent audit. An independent external audit of a corporation financial statement is part of the overall corporate governance structure. An audit of the company's financial statement serves internal and external stakeholders at the same time. An audited financial statement and the accompanying auditors help investors, employees, shareholders, and regulators determine the financial performance of the corporation. Lastly, this exercise gives a broad but limited view of the organization's internal working mechanism and future outlook. Lastly, small business relevance. Corporate governance has relevance in the small business world as well. Internal mechanism of corporate governance may not be implemented on a noticeable scale by a small business, but the functions can be applied to many small businesses nevertheless. Business owners make strategic decisions about how workers will do their duties, and they monitor their performance. This is an internal control mechanism, part of business governance. Likewise, if a business requests a loan from a bank, it must respond to that bank's demand to comply with liens and agreements, an external control mechanism. If the business is a partnership, a partner might demand an audit to place reliance on the profit figures provided, another form of external control. There are 8 benefits of corporate governance. First is good corporate governance ensure corporate success and economic growth. Second, strong corporate governance maintains investors' confidence, as a result of which company can raise capital efficiently and effectively. Third, it lowers the capital cost. Fourth, there is a positive impact on the share price. Next is, it provides proper inducement to the owners as well as managers to achieve objectives that are in interest of the shareholders and organization. Good corporate governance also minimizes wastage, corruption, risk and mismanagement. Next, it helps in brand formation and development. Lastly, it ensures organization is managed in a manner that fits the best interest of all. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nur Sofia Arisha binti Muaram. I will continue on optimal versus actual compensation policies. Compensation is an organization promotion policies which has actual and optimal. Actual policy means the actual registered corporate of life insurance products, while optimal policy is to maximize the probability weighted summation of future rewards.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Siti Nuliana binti Johari. I am going to explain about the components of executive compensation. The first component is cash compensation. In general, compensation can be defined as a summary of the monetary bonuses given to workers in return for their services, which may include base wages, salaries, bonus, and rewards. There are various perspectives about the cash compensation. For example, Cooper 2019, it is mentioned that cash compensation is sum of all executives receive standard cash compensation for the year. The firm will list the base salary for each key member of the management team in the proxy statement. While, according to Executive Compensation Explained 2018, the company may offer its executive employees monetary rewards to keep them motivated and committed to the company's goal. In general, cash compensation comes in the form of salaries and performance business. I also want to mention that a participant cash compensation should be based upon the cash method accounting, which are overtime pay, bonuses, stock bonus, and others. The second point is option grant. Option grant, in other words, refers to the grant of an employee stock options in order to gain loyalty and to encourage good job results. According to Cooper 2019, option grants is a list of all options. The information include such as strike price and expiration date. In addition, the Executive Compensation Explained 2018 mentioned that option grant is more tax-friendly compared to cash compensation. The example of options grants are research money, education loan, and also stock options. Next, we move to the third point, which is deferred compensation. Deferred compensation can be defined as an arrangement in which portion of an employee's income is paid out at a later date after which the income was earned. The example of deferred compensation are pension, retirement plans, and also employee stock options. This example of deferred compensation support the statement of Ivan Tarver 2019 that explained about deferred compensation plan. From the other view, Cooper 2019 mentioned that the deferred compensation typically for tax purposes only. Point number 4 for components of executive compensation is retirement package. As we all know, retirement applies to the time in life when a person wants to leave the workplace permanently behind, while retirement package are benefits payable to the members that are on retirement or early withdrawal from service. However, according to Cooper 2019, retirement package are packaged that are given to executives after they retire from the firm. For year of service or other reasonable benefits, it is customary for some executives to receive health benefits upon retirement. These are important to watch because they may contain so-called golden parachutes for corrupt executives, or they may be payable regardless of whether the company is meeting its financial goals or even profitable. While the Executive Compensation 2018 highlights the example of retirement package such as pension, deferred compensation, health benefit, and others benefit compensation.
Okay, it's me back, Nur Sofia Arisha binti Muharram. I will continue on components in executive incentive. Next component is long-term incentive. According to Taiki-Maiki 2019, long-term incentive package provided for delivery rewards to employees and striving employees' future outcomes and objectives, as well as for long-term growth. Company who achieve long-term incentive plan can be shown on the performance of employees toward the business and their work in long-term period with that organization. According to Candace Webb, long-term incentive plan encourage employees to remain loyal work in that organization. This incentive provides rewards every 2 to 5 years. There are 3 types of long-term incentive plan. First, appreciation based. The value is delivered when market share of company increase. Employee will receive some appreciation. Second, stock based. Value is delivered in shares of the company stock and paid in cash but tied the company's share performance. Third is cash based. The value is delivered in cash and not tied to the performance of shares company. Other component is short-term incentive. According to Stephen Miller 2018, this is way to motivate and reward employees at the companies, especially small and mid-sized firms. Short-term incentives are the additions to base pay provided to employee according to yearly performance and paid in cash. The example of these incentives are project bonus, retention bonus, gain sharing plans, annual incentive plans, and others. Annual incentive plans is the rewards of accomplishments of specific result. Rewards usually are tied to the expected result identified at the beginning of performance cycle. Next, for granted severance package. According to Will Canton 2019, these benefits provided to employees who are terminated either involuntarily or voluntarily. The primary reasons for offering a severance package are to soften the blow of an involuntary termination and avoid future lawsuits by having the employee sign a release in exchange for their severance. Benefits from these incentives are salary continuation, uncontested unemployment benefits, and reference. Will Canton 2019 also stated an employee's regular pay along with extra pay bills, compensation for unused medical and dental benefits, and retirement accounts and stock option. Last one component in executive incentive is perquisites or executive perks. This is a form of compensation or benefits that recognize the executive to the company, extraordinary demands on his or her times, and other unique conditions, and typically are not available to other employers. Some perks are structured to maximize executive work time, including driver to and from home, provide work tools such as cell phone or laptop, and others. Organizations also offer executive supplemental health and welfare benefits. The other executive benefits such as supplemental life insurance, supplemental disability insurance, long-term care insurance, and others.
Hello, I am Muhammad Shah Khalid. Now let's take a look at the current issues in finance and ethics worldwide. One of the arising worldwide issue is the impact of novel corona on the global economy. First, global tourism industry estimated to suffer 50 billion in losses. According to MoroccoWorldNews.com, the World Tourism Organization UNWTO estimates a global decline of 1% to 3% in the international tourist arrivals in 2020, which translates to a loss of 30 to 50 billion of tourist spending due to coronavirus outbreak. The estimated loss is caused from an assessment conducted by UNWTO amid cancellations and declines in the number of flights and travel restrictions that aim to tackle the pandemic. Asia and the Pacific are expected to suffer the biggest losses, with a decrease of 9% to 12% in international tourist arrivals in 2020. As you can see from the slide, the line trend chart represents the international tourist arrivals, and according to UNWTO, they estimate the impact of COVID-19 crisis result in 15 to 44 million decline of international tourist arrivals. Let's relate this issue with Malaysia and see the impact of the coronavirus outbreak on this country's economy. According to MalayMail.com, Malaysia's Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin said that the outbreak of the novel coronavirus has hit the nation's tourism sector hard, with an expected loss of RM 3.37 billion with the first 2 months of the year. As a result, Muhyiddin said Malaysia's gross domestic product growth for the year is expected to shrink as much as 0.8 to 1.2 points, with a total potential loss of up to RM 17.3 billion. Next, I would like to discuss two airlines in Malaysia that are affected with this COVID-19 crisis, especially the employees. They are affected with this because of the hit on the nation's tourism sector. First, AirAsia. AirAsia Group Berhad is expected to implement a 10% salary cut primarily for its department heads, including air operators, certificate holders, captains, and certain senior executives starting this month, and the salary reduction would be implemented temporarily for the next 6 months, along with the permanent removal of free lunch allowance. However, AirAsia's employees had been given an option for up to 3 months unpaid leave, which was available for application. Second, Malaysia Airlines. According to the Edge Markets, Malaysia Airlines is the latest airline to ask its 13,000 employees to take voluntary unpaid leave as the spread of coronavirus takes a heavy toll on airline's bottom line. MAS has cancelled more than 2,000 flights up to April due to travel restrictions imposed by countries within our network, and the national carrier is offering all employees the option of taking 3 months no pay leave or 5 days no pay leave per month for at least 3 months starting April. Now, let's relate the corporate governance and incentives in handling this issue. I would like to highlight on Tony Fernandez's recent letter. The CEO of AirAsia, Tony Fernandez, recently stated in his recent letter that all staff remain employed. He said that AirAsia is a family and there are tens of thousands of all staff who depend on the business for their livelihoods and the well-being of their own families. Tony Fernandez also said that the company's chairman and him will not be taking a salary during this period, and all staff from across the business have accepted temporary pay reductions of anywhere between 15 to 75%, depending on seniority to share the impact that is having on their business.
Hello, thank you Shakali. My name is Shamila Nur Azizi, and today I would like to explain two cases or issues related to current issue in finance and ethics. First, market in turmoil as oil price crashes. According to the Star Online date 10 March 2020, price tanked sinking by 58.94 points, which this led to a weaker ringgit in Malaysia. Bursa Malaysia has suspended the short selling activities of multiple oil and gas stock following a sharp plunge in their prices. The news just now, we can see on how the Malaysia facing the slower GDP growth along the year 2020. This may affect the reduce of resources to spend on development activities during COVID-19 and also to a weaker ringgit in Malaysia. From these cases, the government announced the new budget called as Economic Stability Assistance, which catered the B40 and M40 population as well. This included to lose the policies between and towards people during this COVID-19 outbreak. From that cases, the government provide 250 billion stimulus package, which to ensure the economy fell out from the Black Swan events. For the second issue is well-being of Malaysia increased during COVID-19. According to the issue, Datuk Seri Hishamuddin as the Foreign Minister did raise the COVID-19 issue to his counterparts in China, Singapore and the United Arab States among others in order for them to find the best solution that could cater to all. From that issue, Datuk Seri Hishamuddin has been asked by the Malaysian in COVID-19 stricken countries should be brought home. Datuk Seri Hishamuddin said the decision will have been made by the cabinet and now the government made it phase by phase. The government already set up the incentive for the students and visitors a place under mandatory isolation at the government centre following their return from overseas. The government had announced that all Malaysians returning from overseas would be sent to quarantine for 14 days to combat the transmission of COVID-19. All the members that have been quarantined being given a free packed food and also all the good facilities towards them. This shows that the government really give a very good incentive towards those that affected by the COVID. That's all for today. Thank you for listening. Assalamualaikum.